There we go. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Good evening and welcome to Thursday Thoughts.
Thursday Thoughts with Kent and Karen. How many of these have we done now?
I have no idea.
I think maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah. COVID. I guess,
Yeah.
did we start the second week of COVID maybe?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that was like what, in March, April. Oh my goodness. Can you believe that it's
Oh,
May
oh my
14th
goodness.
today?
Yeah.
And
May long weekend coming up next weekend.
yeah,
It's like how
that's crazy.
it's funny, even during this lockdown, of course, we've been very busy working, but things are moving
You've
very
been busy
quickly.
working.
Well, okay, you've been busy working on other things.
Yeah, it is a little bit crazy for sure. So great to see some people come on. It's great to have
Yeah.
you here already.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So let's see, what have we been doing this week? Probably pretty boring.
I don't, it's funny how you don't really know what day of week it is. You don't know. Yeah, it's just everything's a little bit crazy, isn't it?
Oh,
So,
I know what. I want to say a big thanks to all the people who were praying for us last weekend. On Saturday,
oh,
it was actually
right.
kind
That's
of
what we did.
kind
See?
of a big day in history commemorating or celebrating the 75th anniversary, I believe it's 75, of the Canadians liberating Holland. And so we were invited by the Military Christian Fellowship to do a portion of our Victory on the Front Lines teaching, which is actually just a one-day seminar we put together on LL's teaching on trauma for first responders, military, and those struggling with both moral injury and PTSD. So wonderful opportunity. We had about 67 or 68 people sign in from all around the world. Yeah, it's a webinar.
Yeah.
Just for half a day. But just a big thanks for those of you who are praying for us. This is an area of need we've stumbled into and just feel like God's given us something to lend a helping hand. And the feedback is people are saying this is really helpful. So thank you for your prayers.
Yes.
A few people have been asking us about the septic at LL. This is a less than glamorous topic. Once again, a septic is one of those things you don't notice unless it's not working. It really for us is the hinge point of moving forward with our expansion, which has been part of our part of the vision the Lord's given us. And we, since day one, we've really tried to lay it out and let Him thresh it, as it were. And so we're currently working on getting some quotes. We feel like this is the season that we have to move forward. Because, as I mentioned, I guess 2 weeks ago, we ran into some things this spring that just indicated that, okay, we're coming to the end of the life of our septic. Again, not too glamorous, but once it's in place.
So important.
Oh my goodness.
So important. It's almost like the foundational piece right now.
Yeah, kind of, it is.
For things to move forward, which seems like a weird time during COVID, but we do believe that even existing as it is, our septic is failing.
Yeah, so if you'd pray for us, we're like I say, collecting some quotes right now. We're believing for a miracle, and more information to come on that soon. And what happens is once a good septic system is in the ground, it means we can go forward with kitchen plant expansion. And for those of you that don't know, converting the garages into extra space is actually going to more than double our capacity. And we're really looking forward to that because we have such long waiting lists and that kind of thing. So So important work happening behind the scenes. Now, last week, remember what was the question we left with? Do you remember?
We gave a question about what is the area that you don't want God to go to. I know it was kind of
that's a very provocative question.
Very heavy question. So what is it that's holding you back, kind of thing? So we wanted to know, like, did He show you anything, I guess, or how's that dialogue going with the Lord? And one of the things that we find is sometimes, you can kind of come up with the idea of, oh, okay, here's what it is. But it's always important to ask that question, but why? Why is it hard to go there? So this isn't meant to be anything to push your buttons or anything like that, or to bring about any kind of condemnation. It's just great questions and great wrestling out some of the things as we have this pause to kind of press to the Father's heart.
Yeah, I think actually just take a moment to read the story of Jesus washing Peter's feet in John 13. And Peter kind of missed exactly what Jesus is doing, I believe, but later got it. And Jesus said, a person who's had a bath is already clean. I only need to wash your feet. That place where we are kind of the last place we want Jesus to work in our lives, whether because it's painful, shameful, or something. We're convinced if people find out about it, then we'll be rejected for sure. That's usually shame.
Yeah.
Those places are the places where we need Jesus. And so the reason we asked the question was not just to push buttons, but to say
Yeah.
that's probably the area in your life he's pursuing the greatest because he
Yeah.
knows where you need him.
Last week we were talking about pruning.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
this was part of the questioning that we were just even asking ourselves is where is God pruning us right now? And pruning is not a bad thing. It's actually a growth place. And so, that was our
So
question for last week. So hope that went well.
understanding that
Yeah.
it opens up some personal conversations. You may not want to talk to anybody about it, but
Yeah.
hope you're following through with the Lord on that. We actually wanted to follow up on the pruning theme with a twist. So
Yeah.
one of the areas where Karen and I have been pruned most
Yes.
is probably in the area of faith.
Yeah.
It's a really big, how do you explain
Yeah.
it?
So we're going to talk tonight. I don't know if this is backwards for you about faith. Is that backwards? I hope not.
I hope not.
Faith, yeah. We have a lot of experience with discovering a muscle that we didn't think we had.
That's right. And it's a word that we kick around a lot in our faith, but it has such important centrality to everything that we do. And one of the things that we become kind of aware of is that the story that we're living out as a team with LL Ministries is not just for us, it's a story for the body of Christ. And when we tell about what God has done, it literally boosts people's faith. So we wanted to talk about that tonight. And
it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, just review some of the stories you may have heard already and talk about how awesome our God is. So I think one of the things that's we're learning is that God consistently invites us into the place of faith in each season in our Christian walk. So you may say, well, I had that lesson about faith 5 or 10 years ago, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But actually, you'll find that as you say yes to the Lord, He'll invite you into a place of faith now today,
Yeah, that's right.
and yes tomorrow, yes yesterday. It's like something you never get. You learn the lessons, you get stronger, these muscles develop, but you never kind of get off the hook. Okay, well I'm mature enough now.
Yeah.
I don't need faith.
And it goes deeper and deeper and deeper, I think, right? As we mature
Absolutely.
and as we go through our journey. So, yeah, just see a whole bunch of people coming on here. It's great.
Yeah.
Welcome
Hi, everybody.
to you all. It's great to see you.
So it's like faith is an essential ingredient. No matter how long you've been at it, no matter how big your faith has become,
Yeah.
we need to keep it healthy and growing. And I wrote down here, it's like a muscle that you can lose far too quickly when neglected, but gain strength rapidly when exercised. So it's really sensitive in the sense that it can wane if you're not walking in it and working it,
Yeah.
and yet it can develop with such strength as well. So, remember when we started out?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
It's like
You
written
really
on
do.
our hearts kind of thing. Okay, so do you remember the word?
Oh, gosh. So many of you have been to the center. Some of you haven't, and we'd love to have you come when we're able to open up. But one of the things that God had been showing us is just this word believe. And it just kind of became, when God's asking you to step out and do a faith journey, or I really believe that He gives you lots of confirmations. And so one of the things He had given us, and I honestly, it's been a long time. It's been over 13 years now. So we did try to write down all the confirmations as best we could when they were happening. But the word believe, it was almost like the Lord was saying, this is me. I'm asking you to believe, not just out of I'm just going to believe that it's going to happen, like a striving, but He was just saying, would you trust me? Would you trust me that I'm leading you in the right direction? And it was very hard. And yet along the way, there was all these little signposts and confirmations, and kind of like He was guiding us saying, I know it's crazy, but actually just believe in me.
Well, I actually remember how it started when we were praying over the property just after we found it.
Yes.
And I was walking along the terrace with a good friend
people.
named Roger Rutter, and Roger and I were having this dialogue and say we need to look in the physical and listen, watch with spiritual eyes and spiritual ears. And I said, we just need to watch for something that might be a sign from God. And he said, like that.
Oh, right.
And Mrs. Derbyshire at the time had a believe sign hanging on the west wall of the house just outside the master bedroom. And so we noticed it and we
Mhm.
took note of it both, I guess, physically we saw it,
Yeah.
but spiritually we heard it like God was saying something.
Because
The
he'd
funny,
already been speaking to us about
well,
that.
but the
So,
funny thing was, it like started this avalanche, like a waterfall.
mm,
People would call us out of the blue. I've got this word for you guys. You
yeah,
need to believe God and what He's doing. People
yeah,
would
it's
give us a
crazy.
card with "Believe" across the front. They gave us. We got a Christmas ornament. We've
Hmm.
got a sign
Still keep
hanging
it
in.
up to this
Oh
day.
my goodness!
Yeah.
It came from every angle, and it was spreading somewhat word of mouth, but so much of it came right out of the blue as people were just hearing from God and wanted to encourage us in it.
Yeah.
And He was trying to tell us to believe.
Yeah.
Now we would have thought that we believed Him,
Yeah.
and yet what our faith needed to grow about, oh boy, I don't know how many sizes, but
Yeah.
it was pretty small. It was pretty good in some ways,
Yeah.
but having been in ministry for a few years, we thought it was great. But when you step into what God has for you, we didn't know, or we underestimated maybe how big our faith needed to grow.
It's true. And also, too,
So
I think the timing is also a really interesting word. You know, you might get a confirmation or you might get a word, but it's for a later time and, or it's for a later date. Now, for us, it was pretty fast tracked, but we got that word in November, but actually the fruition of the center didn't come to be until 1 year later.
so we took possession of it a year after we started to
Right.
hear this word.
Right. So, and it was not an easy journey. It was
Oh,
bumpy and testing and trying and out of control and amazing, amazing. Because the miracles that come when God asks you to step out in faith are so
well, we should
encouraging.
share some of those stories
Yeah,
actually.
we'd
Do you
love to.
remember
We absolutely love
remember
to. Oh gosh. So yeah, so we did have a little bit of a startup fund. I mean, our whole story is really a miracle story. And we had a little bit of funds to be able to just begin. But there was a point where that ran out, and which included our salary and that. And I just remember actually being really terrified when you came to me that day and said,
boy, I still remember.
there's no more money.
Yeah.
And we had 3 little girls. And I think I went to my safe place, which is my very hot bathtub. And I cried out to the Lord and I said, we're not going to make it. And I started crying. And I remember as I started to cry, the Lord just dropped in and said, but you're going to be provided by from me.
Oh my goodness.
And I cannot express to you the joy. So I'm in the midst of terror, fear, and worry, and joy comes from heaven down into my spirit, and I start to laugh, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. How can you be doing having 2 emotions like this at one point? Anyways, that was amazing to me, that God was really just saying, trust me. It was a faith journey.
And by the
again.
way, during that season, our children were more well cared for
Mm-hmm.
than any other season where
Yeah,
you know
crazy.
the paycheck was reliable, as it were.
So that was sort of the beginning.
Actually, the good story about this is when we were well. We'll do the furniture story
Yeah,
first.
furniture stories, good story.
In the midst of right around that same time,
Mhm.
I guess a couple months before,
Mhm.
I had been offered a gentleman who was became a friend of the ministry, offered to help us out financially with some furniture. Obviously, when we purchased the house, it was pretty much empty
Mhm.
and needed full furnishing. And
Amazing.
he offered us. He said he would give us some of the furniture at his cost.
Mhm.
And I said, well, that'd be great.
Mhm.
But if that was the Lord, I would need X amount of thousands of dollars. And I didn't tell anybody. I literally just said it to him and walked out the door. We didn't have any money at that point for these types of things. The next day, I received a donation. I got a call from an organization wanted our charitable number. I asked why, and they told me that we were receiving a donation from a donor in another city who had no idea of that conversation, and it was for the exact amount of money that I had told this gentleman the day before that I needed. Fast forward then to the end of the week. So we have Peter Horban, our founder, international director, and Andy Taylor, our regional director, are coming for our kind of grand opening. And we don't have any furniture. We don't have any beds for them to sleep on. That's kind of what it's at. And so that's
it's kind of a big deal.
yeah. That's
We knew we had to
Tuesday,
do something.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm in the gentleman's store. And the funny thing is we know this is God, but I'm still struggling because I guess in my brain, I'm thinking, well, it wouldn't be right to spend money on new furnishings. We should go with what we've come to term junk for Jesus. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but we should do it a different financial way. But God was really stretching me. And so we're in the store.
You were sweating it out.
I was sweating it out.
Oh,
and I'm
my
saying, Lord, I
goodness.
need a confirmation. Not that that hadn't already been, I think I already
And
had about
and I
four.
was telling you, I'm like, go for it. It's the Lord. But nope.
So
Nope.
I'm in the men's store. I get a call. I say, Lord, we need a conversation. My cell phone rings. It's a lady named Cheryl who has become a dear friend and was a member of our board and an advisor for a while. This is the first time Cheryl's ever called me. And she said, Kent, I just wanted to ask, how's the work going there in Ontario? And I literally explained to her what's happening. And she interrupts me and says, Kent, you need to go see that man and purchase this material with the money that God provided because you're being stretched. And I'm going, Cheryl, she says, don't argue. I really feel so strongly this is the Lord. I said, Cheryl, I'm in the store. She says, what do you mean you're in the store? I said, I'm in the store asking for a confirmation and you call. First phone call. First time I don't even know where she got my number.
I don't know, but she said, buy the furniture.
Yeah.
And I said, see?
So it was, I mean,
it's
just...
funny. It was the Lord. It was just the
word.
Lord. And I mean, you have, character. And so you wanted to do things right and well. And the Lord knew that. And anyways, it was just a really neat
I couldn't
journey.
get my head around the resources that it would take to do ministry well, to be really honest.
Yeah.
I'd been part of church budgeting for years, but this was a whole new curveball.
And we had already felt in the vision for the ministry that it was to be something that was of excellence, that somehow the property, which seems to be with every LL property you go, that the Lord there's some sort of a lavish, like his love. It's not about the finances, it's not about the luxury, but it's about God picked that for his kids.
But I want you to lavish my love on my children. Remember how he used to
There's a generosity in that.
Yeah.
Lavish is not always the most expensive. It's a generous heart. Yeah, it's a daddy's heart.
But the stories. I mean, one morning we got a phone call from a guy who'd been woken up in the middle of the night. Now we were on our knees and we were saying, Lord, we're at not breaking point, but we're desperate. Yeah. And we need you to come through. We get a call the next morning from a man who says, I couldn't sleep last night. The Lord woke me up in a dream that you guys needed financial help. Literally that, and we hadn't told a soul. And this guy calls and he said, I was just asking the Lord what I should do with this money that I have. It turns out to be the same amount of money that we need. Once again, a miracle comes through. There was just so many times. Remember our daughter.
So we were in the years where Jessica was really desiring some jeans. We just didn't have the finances at the time. So Kent wisely said, you know what? We can pray. We can ask the Lord. He cares. He cares about these things. And so we just wanted to ask the Lord about his desires.
Yeah, actually, one night I prayed with her and I felt like the Lord said, ask me and leave it. Yeah. So we agreed to pray for 10 days. Yeah. And at the end of 10 days, so just when I would lay my hands on her at night and put her into bed, we would just leave it with the Lord and that's it. So at the end of 10 days, she said, look, Dad, what do I do? I said, you leave it with the Lord. Meanwhile, I'm going, Lord, you're watching this, right? You're coming through for it. And it was about within 2 weeks, I think. So about a 3-week window in full, she received a bag of hand-me-downs from a friend. 2 pairs of used jeans, 1 pair of new ones that still had the label on it. Then she got another bag of hand-me-downs from another friend, another pair of jeans, and then to top it off, she got a card from a lady who didn't know. Amazing. Dear Jessica, here's $50. God told me to buy you jeans.
Isn't that crazy?
So here's this girl, and we really understand too that when God builds faith in our lives, it's not just for today, it's in today, but it's for tomorrow. Yeah. And we've watched our daughter, that daughter, walk through different issues, and that faith lesson that the Lord built in her life then is still bearing fruit in her God confidence today. It's a phenomenal thing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Really awesome. And you know, there's just been other times where, you know, I think even on a monthly basis, even currently, we just are still walking in faith. This wasn't just a 13-year-old story
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it happened once, but it's happening currently where we just wait on the Lord. And but there's a trust there. There's a trust that we've built with him.
Well, and the other thing is we're praying less like it's our ministry or
Right.
the ministry, but it's His
It's
ministry.
his. It's
And
totally his.
that's not, we're not perfect in that, but you know, even last year, funny thing
Mm.
is our ground, we have an amazing grounds team that volunteer
grounds team.
to, hi guys, to
We miss you.
yes, we
We're gonna
do.
need you to come and get the grass.
That's right. Um, but they were saying, look, as the lawns get larger and we take on,
Yeah.
we develop more of the property that we have as far as moving it from farmer's field into, you know, groomed grass, so to speak. They needed a bigger lawnmower, and it was really a legitimate need. And so we prayed and we searched, and one of our board members found one, and it's great.
Amazing.
We prayerfully set the budget as a board. He found one that fit, and on the day it was delivered to try it out, we literally got a check from another organization that was exactly the amount of the lawnmower that day.
Yep.
And there's little things that
That's
God does.
crazy.
Well,
That's
you know,
not kind of how we normally would plan things.
no, no. But and the thing is, when you step into what God has for you, it's just like so full of surprises. I think it. So we mentioned the pruning thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. When God says, what's Isaiah? You look that
Isaiah
up. What is that?
43?
Yes.
Yeah, I can read it if you
Yeah,
want.
would you?
Yeah, just as for I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness, and I will create rivers in the dry wasteland.
So we feel like we were riding that wave with the Lord in some
Doing
ways.
something totally new.
But when we knew He was doing something new, but we didn't know that the new thing He was doing wouldn't fit in our framework of thinking,
Yeah.
our theology of thinking,
Yeah.
our way of how we believe things work. I mean, all of us have a way, but we don't always understand that our ways are not the Lord's way until you run into this huge challenge or pruning when He starts to violate the principles that you think He should work by.
Yeah.
We're not experts on it, but we've been very stretched in that area. And I think along this line, Jesus mentioned the whole principle of new wine. You can't put new wine in an old wineskin. And although we were in our mid-30s at the time, or maybe late 30s,
so
we didn't realize
lesson.
that the new thing God was doing wouldn't fit inside of our old
wineskin.
Yeah,
Belief
really.
systems, thinking. He was doing he was being God.
Oh,
We were understanding our concept of God as we knew it at that time, and He was saying, "It's okay, come on, it's time for a new wineskin." Like the amount of grace and mercy that the Lord extends
He's so
when
patient.
you're walking
incredible.
a faith journey is incredible. So you don't have to get it perfect, but it is a new wineskin, so it's different. And so you get to understand and learn about God in a much richer, deeper way. And I think this whole context of this conversation about faith is really about confidence, isn't it? It's about being confident in who God is and getting to know Him and trusting Him. I think trust is huge too, isn't it? That we often struggle with faith because there's broken trust in our life, you know, in many different kinds of different areas. But when we start to actually trust God, wow.
Well, and this is where the healing comes in so practically.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
You know, we a lot of people tell us, look, why do I have to go back to yesterday? And you know what? You don't have to go back to yesterday. You don't have to go back to the past. But if it's robbing your presence, if your trust issues of yesterday are robbing your trust of God today, that's something to pay attention to, I think, and just say, look, especially
life transforming, actually.
Especially, you know, whatever point of the journey that you're at, you can get to the point where you almost think like, I'm good or whatever. The wheels are turning, things work. But God is, he really is so